Welcome to the Alchemy, Astrology, and Astro Health podcast. I'm Maya Ratla, medical astrologist, astroherbalist, and green witch. I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 19, and I was told I would never have children. I healed my body through the power of herbs, alternative health practitioners, energy healing, and more. At 28, I had the baby they said I would never have, without any interventions. I refused to believe that my body was not able to heal itself. Along this journey, I stumbled across medical astrology, and it resonated with me so much. I started down the path to learning this unique system that had been used for thousands of years in the medical community. I now help other women heal their bodies using their cosmic blueprint, the unique blueprint that every person has embedded in their DNA from the stars. This system helps me see what's going on in your body on a cosmic level and exactly how to help you give your body what it needs to heal itself. We are all uniquely and amazingly designed, and when we learn to work with our design, love ourselves for how we are designed to function, and integrate the cosmos into our lives, I truly believe that we can see true and lasting health brought into our lives. If you are ready to change your life, heal your body, and learn to deeply love who you are, this podcast is for you. Come join me as I discuss medical astrology, astronutrition, astroherbalism, health, wellness, spirituality, transformation, and so much more. I'm so excited you are joining me. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Alchemy, Astrology, and Astro Health. I'm Ire, I'm your host, and let's just dive right in today. So if you've been listening, you know that I just finished hosting the Women's Holistic Health Conference this past weekend, and today I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that I learned from hosting my first virtual conference. So the first place I want to start is that I have learned that it is relatively easy-ish to find guests, depending on what your subject matter is, right? But it's not always easy to find good quality guests, if that makes sense. And by this, I mean people who are committed to showing up, that are committed to, being there as promised, who deliver on the subject that they agreed to speak on, turn in things on time when you need them, make it easy to work with them. Let's say that. Because I've learned when you're the one hosting a conference and you don't have a team, so it's just me, myself, and I, that it makes it a little difficult to keep up on a lot of this stuff. And when you have a good quality guest who is I'm committed, what can I do? What can I get into you? When is this due? And I'm super organized. So I had it all in a doc, right? A shared doc that everybody could access, get into, and see when things were due and whatnot, which I've gotten lots of feedback on was amazing because they didn't feel like they had to keep asking me for questions. So that would be step one to ensuring that your guest can do that, would be to, be organized enough that they know when things are due. And if you don't have a team to be fielding questions, that you have that to kind of lean back on so that you're not overwhelmed and inundated with stuff. I've learned that doing it alone is probably not the best idea that I have ever had in my life. It was very difficult sometimes to keep up on stuff. I was doing everything. I was building out the web page for it. I was doing the emails for it. I was building out the event page and the ticket sale page. And I was writing all of the copy and making all of the reels and the shareable items for social media and newsletters and whatever else, right? On top of, finding the speakers, scheduling the speakers, putting together the schedule for how that was going to go, what days we were going to be on, planning those days, those times, deciding what software we were going to use for it and how it was going to work and what we were doing, and on and on and on and on, right? And it just was a lot. A lot. And toward the end, I was so exhausted that I felt like I wasn't giving it my best anymore because I was just so tired. My energy was so depleted from doing all of this by myself that I'm not sure if the week leading up to the conference that it was as good as it could have been. Because by the time I got to that weekend for the conference, I was utterly exhausted, and I don't feel like I showed up in the best way possible as the host because I was so tired by this point. It was hard to come up with some energy, right, to do this and show up and do all the stuff that I needed to do. Because half of my speakers chose to do like the interview style, so I was having to also prep for questions and what I wanted to talk about with them specifically based on whatever thing their topic was. And so I had to prep all of that stuff on top of it. We also had to get together once and test all of the software to see how it was working so that everybody knew how to do it, and that was another like hour or two out of like our day, out of our week that we had to do. So that was another thing to try to squish in at the last minute, and it was exhausting. So I think if I do one next year, which this was initially supposed to be like, an annual thing, if I had to do it again next year, if I choose to, I am probably going to, even if it's temporary, hire a VA, at least one, maybe two, to help me with this. Put some of that extra like work that you have to do behind the scenes, let them do that so that my energy can be better spent on other things like the promotions and stuff, being like the voice of the thing. I had so many people that were like, hey, we want to do a live with you about this, or I had to do a podcast episode, right? Let's get a podcast episode together. Let's go over here and do this. And because I'm the host, everybody wants, oh, all the speakers, let's do it together, which is great. And I loved that. I loved the initiative. I was like, yes, let's go. But doing 2 to 3 of those a week, sometimes more, plus my own stuff that I'm still doing, on top of everything else was just a lot. So if I do it again next year, I'm going to probably block those weeks of like pre-promotion, promotion, days of the conference, and then like maybe a few days after for resting off of my calendar. So I will not be taking on any client work or any readings or anything at that time because it was utterly exhausting trying to keep up on that stuff with my clients and things like that, plus trying to do the whole conference prep and all the stuff I just mentioned by myself. So I have learned that doing it with a team would probably be easier. I've learned to roll with the punches. And by this, I mean that a lot of shit happened that I wasn't expecting and didn't like plan for because I don't know if there was a way to plan for any of it. Case in point, we had a speaker that had to drop out due to illness, and so that left a blank in, the area. Initially, when I'd been prepping all of this, my initial thought was, well, if a speaker drops out, then I'll just fill in that space and I'll talk about medical astrology or whatever, right? Do a herbal class or something. I already had a herbalist, so it wouldn't be a herbal class, but a nutrition class or something, right? I would just fill in. By the time we got to they dropped out the day before we started. By the time we got to that day when they dropped out, I was so utterly exhausted that the thought of having to actually come up with like a whole presentation and then do it in 2 days while also hosting this conference was just a no-go. So I was like, well, that's fine. We'll just leave that spot blank. We will start the breakout sessions earlier that day, right? And then another wrench showed up when the main wasn't a speaker. She was like the MSA, of the whole thing. She was starting the morning meditations and doing the card pulls and doing the movement medicine at lunchtime, kind of stuff. She had to drop out because of illness, and I was left scrambling because that is not my wheelhouse, and I am not going to try to step into something that's not my wheelhouse on a normal basis, and really not at the last minute like that, because I wanted it to be good, not, like whatever you would get with me with it not being my wheelhouse, right? And so that left me scrambling, and I had nobody to fill in for that at all. Like I didn't have anybody on backup or standby. So if we do it next year, that would definitely be something that I would be like, let's somebody on standby who's like, look, this is what I need you to do to be open this weekend to, jump in if needed or something. I think one of the other things that I was doing, I would not do it live. I would do the breakout sessions live again. Like, people can show up in the afternoon, actually talk to the guest, the host, and everything. I might do those again, but I would not do the actual conference itself live. I think it lends to too much variables, like I just talked about, of like last minute things happening that like fuck things up and throw wrenches into things that you have no control over, and then there's no like backup plan, right? I think I would pre-record the speaking sessions at least, and then host those live, and I would host the, like show them, quote unquote, like at the time, so they'd be live, but they would just be like live replays, and then have like either a live breakout session or a live like lunch session, something where there would be some live interaction with the people, so it would be, worth the time to come, and it wouldn't just be, pre-recorded stuff. But I don't think I would make the entire thing live again, because that was just a lot, trying to coordinate everybody at the right times to show up. And I think it would be a lot easier to have them just send things over and then pop them up into, whatever we're using, and then just have them play at the moment that they're supposed to. I think that would prevent some of the stuff that happened. I think I've learned a lot about my ability to be flexible. I've always been pretty flexible. Having been a nurse for so long, like, you have to be flexible, right? Because being a nurse, you always get wrenches thrown at you. You can be, moving along in a nice steady pace. Things are great. You're caught up on everything. And then, a patient crashes, or a patient crashes and you get an admit at the same time, right? And they're like, why can't you see this patient over here? And you're like, because this patient over here is doing it, and there's lots of things that can change. And so I have always felt that I was pretty flexible. I don't know if this was because I was doing everything and I was so like low in energy that I didn't plan on that, but like when some of these wrenches popped up, it was really, I found myself being really more inflexible than I think I've ever been in my life. And that was just something I've learned about myself, that when I've put this much like time and effort and energy into doing something, that I get a bit rigid and perfectionistic about how it comes out. Part of that is because I've been working on this since November of last year. This was like, it wasn't like something I just came up with in April and then we did it. This was something that I've been working on since November of last year. So it's been a work of heart for sure, right? Like, definitely really, really working on it in the background. Every week it was like, okay, let's do this piece for it and let's do that piece for it. And I had to contact all these people individually and then set up meetings with them to discuss what we wanted and what, would be the expectations. And then we had to get meetings. I had to put the doc together. We had to, like, it's just, there was all these steps and pieces. And I think I was super organized, which helped, but I found that because I was so invested that it made it a lot harder to feel as flexible as I should have been. And I found myself getting upset about things that normally wouldn't bother me, and just really like being like, oh my God, why is this not going the way I planned it? Right? That perfectionistic streak, but I planned it to be exactly like this. And now that it's not exactly like that, then we're just going to not do it at all. Right. So I found I really had to work on myself of overcoming that, like, let's just throw it all in the trash because it didn't go exactly as planned. So I've apparently discovered that I have more of a perfectionistic streak in me than I realized when it comes to stuff that's like this involved. I'm a perfectionist usually when it comes to my stuff, like for my, my stuff person, like how I set up, how I do things in my business, how things are organized, how things, right? Like, it has to be just so. But I've never really been like that when it involves like other people. I've been much more flexible and loose and, able to go with the flow a little more. I'm harder on myself than like others, right? Because like, that's just, the way I was raised too. It's always like super hard on yourself over nothing, basically. And so I learned that about myself, that apparently when I am the one who's hosting it and I put all this time and effort into it, that I'll take those perfectionistic tendencies that I usually apply only to me and start trying to apply it to other people. So that took some self-reflection, some meditation, some just lots of deep breathing. Thank goodness for Jennifer, who did the tapping sessions, because that was really super helpful to use that to kind of just, remind my nervous system that it was okay to have wrenches thrown at you. You just learn to duck, dive, dodge, and, dip out of the way, right? And so that's that's what we had to do. I liked the platform that we used. It was really nice that, we could have us and then there's like an audience section and they could come up onto stage if they ask questions and stuff like that so we could bring people up. I liked that whole thing. I liked how it recorded. I like all of that. We had some technical issues with it, which is why I didn't get replays out to everybody until like, I don't know, late this week, because I was having, once they uploaded so that I could like download them, right, and then um, upload them into where we were going to put the replays, it wouldn't let me download some of them because like it automatically does a transcription, which is great, and I love that feature. But two of the days got like stuck on the transcription, just saying that it was, doing its thing and then never actually finishing. So it was like this in perpetuity. It was just constantly circling. And I was like, okay, so it wouldn't let me do anything with the recording until the transcription was done, like uploading to, the cloud. And so I ended up having to contact customer support 2 separate times to get that fixed. Thankfully, they were super quick, got it fixed right away, even over a weekend. So I appreciate that. That was good to find out, and haven't had to use their customer service yet, so didn't know how that would be. So that was good to know. So I'd probably use that platform again because I did really like it. It was fairly easy for attendees to use because you don't need anything special, right? Like you don't have to download anything if you're on a computer. If you're on the phone, it does require an app to be downloaded, but it's something that you can easily just, once the conference is over, like delete and it's fine. So I found that worked really well. People liked that about it. There was a chat that like everybody could see and everybody could chat together, and then there was ways to ask like questions in the Q&A section where then we could bring a person up on stage with us and answer questions live. So that was cool. So I'd probably use that again. We used Google Meet for the breakout sessions, and that worked really well because they have the breakout rooms similar to like Zoom has, that I was able to create and then drag each person into, so that each person had their own breakout room for the breakout sessions and people could jump back and forth between them. So that worked out. I'd probably, if we do the breakout sessions, I'd probably do that again. As far as ticket prices go, I think I would probably either leave them right around where they were for the VIP or maybe a little cheaper. I don't know, but it was okay. I don't know about that. That's something to think about. I'm not sure, if I would keep that price the same or not at this time. I did like the swag bag. People have liked the swag bag because they've been able to go and get free gifts from everybody, so that's been nice. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I would be like, yes, let's keep that for next year, I don't know. I don't think that there really is. I think that's really about it. I would also maybe, instead of doing all the web pages and all that stuff myself, I might either, again, VA do it if that's in their wheelhouse, or if it's not, then get like a designer or something, a web designer to do it, so that, again, saves me some time and energy. And I would probably find a way to pay for some advertising for it, like put up Facebook ads or something, right? Because we didn't do that this time. I figured with 10 of us promoting and sending stuff out and doing all that, that it would be good enough because there was 10 of us promoting across multiple platforms and newsletters and to our communities and all that, right? And that it just didn't work out how I liked. And it was really hard to keep track of like who was promoting and who wasn't. So I think to solve that problem, paid advertising of some sort might be best. Or doing what I've seen some other people do, we do like affiliate promoters where you have people come in who are like not actually speaking, but buy like a little bit of like a sponsorship into it or promote it for like a 10%, of their total sales that they bring in. So let's say they sell like 10 tickets at $100 each. So what's that, $1,000? They'd make $100 for it or whatever, right? Whatever you decide together. So I think I would do something like that to bring some extra people in. I might do a sponsorship next time and get like a company to sponsor us. one that I know and trust and like and can guarantee like is aligned with what we're doing, right? So again, that's not sure if I want to do that because I don't want to be associated with something that may not be something that I would like personally use or promote normally. And I don't want people to, get the wrong impression for sure. And I don't want to align myself with a company that doesn't line up with my values. So that would be something to really be very cautious about doing if I choose to do it, one that would definitely be on the up and up, and like you can look into everything about them and know that like their transparency is good, that they're not like homophobic or hiding some kind of like agenda that I don't agree with. So I think those are some things. So learned a lot. Currently, I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I would do one next year. A lot of the speakers said that they really loved it. I did a great job overall. They felt that it was super well organized, which they appreciated because, like I said, it made it easier for them to know what they needed to do and when, right? So that was helpful. So overall, I did enjoy it. I'm glad that we did it. I got a lot out of it listening to the speakers myself. And there was a lot that I needed that I think, the universe knew that I needed. So I personally really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. Uh, so that was, that was good. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I want to do one next year. If I do, I may not do it in May. I chose May because it's Women's Health Month, which makes sense to have a health conference for women in Women's Health Month. But I think with just the fact that it was right between Mother's Day and Memorial Day, that it made it hard for people to attend because the weather was just starting like that weekend, especially where we were just finally started, being nice. And so people were wanting to, go outdoors, be in nature, take a boat out, go hiking, whatever. And no one was really home to attend. So while we had people sign up and there was like a decent sign up for things, we didn't have that many people actually show up live and listen. Most of them were tuning into the replays later. So I'm thinking we would probably pick a different month and maybe do it in the winter or the fall. When you've been with your kids all summer and you're, outside, you've been kind of, stressed out all summer having to, take care of the kids, balance childcare, working, whatever, happens during the summer. And then the fall, the kids finally go back to school, right? And you're feeling like, oh, I finally have time to, dedicate to myself and my own health. So might do it in fall next time, or winter, pick a different time, or maybe late winter, like February or March, when it's easier for people to attend, right? Because they're not going to be distracted with the great weather and then not show up, because I think attending live has so much more benefits to it in so many ways, because you can get your questions answered right then, right? And you can interact with the hosts and things when you attend live. So I always think live definitely has its pluses, and then, obviously there's always replays, but I feel like there's just something about the energy when you attend the event at the time that it's actually going on instead of watching the replays later. So I don't know, timing, we might change timing. So if I do it again at all, I might change the timing, and I would definitely go with like some sponsorships or like affiliate kind of people to help promote it, paid advertising, things like that, just to make it maybe reach more people, or more aligned people, I suppose would be the thing. So yeah, overall, I think I learned a lot about hosting a conference. Um, it's a lot. It is a lot. And I really don't think I would ever recommend to anybody to do one on their own, like I chose to do. I don't know if I'm just a little bit, off my rocker thanks to, like being a nurse for so long and just being like, hell yeah, I could do that. Or if I just severely overestimated how easy I thought it would be, or underestimated how hard it actually would be. Um, I don't know. Overall, I think whoever attended got what they were supposed to get, and that the universe definitely, aligned it as it should have. I just was struggling with some of the wrenches that got thrown in and how things didn't go live how they were supposed to go via what was in like my head, right? So the struggling with that perfectionistic tendency that I have a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it I think that I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to put that out there. I needed to kind of talk this through, and I thought of y'all because it's my podcast, and I can talk about whatever I want. And this is what I'm talking about this week. So if you're going to do one yourself, definitely get a team, or even if it's not like a hired team, like if you can't afford like a hired team, find ways to get the help that you need by bartering or exchanging or something, right? Because doing it alone is not something I would recommend. So if I do it again next year, it's definitely going to be with some extra people helping me, and making sure that I'm really being extra picky, I guess, in a way, about vetting speakers, being more clear, maybe having a contract to sign, that they sign that details, more stuff. I've been a speaker in several summits and conferences and things like that where we've had to sign contracts about like spelled out all the stuff that we are going to do to be in this, when or if we can back out, that kind of stuff. And like where we're going to promote it, what they expect of us for all kinds of things, right? Like it details so much. And so I'm thinking I might go that route just to ensure that, like, if at all possible, we don't have any more, you know, major wrenches thrown into things, if possible. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I got what I needed out of it, and the people that attended um, did as well. It was really, really amazing and enlightening. And if you haven't already, um, replays are up. If you're on the newsletter list, you already got those. I'm going to drop them in the show notes here for you, the link to go find those. But I really encourage you to go listen to them. These speakers were chosen for a very specific reason for each one, either by myself or by Spirit reaching out to me and saying, hey, this is who you need. This is, who needs to be in this for this moment in time, right? So every single person was amazing. There was so much good information in there to really help you start learning to take charge of your health and start healing your body in so many different ways, so many different levels, and just really, as we said, returning to that divine feminine, right? Learning to rest when we need it, be in action when we need it, and listen to our bodies, live in harmony with them, and, not overtax ourselves, right? And create issues because we're just going, and never resting. So overall, I do recommend you go and listen to the replays. There's 4 total: day 1, day 2 part 1, day 2 part 2, and then day 3 only had a part 1 because our afternoon speaker we didn't have. So highly recommend it. It's about 2 hours for each replay, about hour and a half, 2 hours for each replay, minus day 1 part 2, which was just like an hour. So it's not too bad. You can turn it on and like listen to it while you do other stuff. So, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. If you came to the conference, I'd love to know. Please tell me, because the way that the platform we use is set up, I could see people were in the audience, but unless they commented in the chat, I couldn't see who was in the audience. So I don't know, like, who actually came and who didn't come based on, just because all it says is, you have 6 people in the audience or whatever, right? And if they didn't participate in the chat, there was no way to know who it was. So if you came, let me know. If you have any suggestions, ideas for next year, anything, even if you go and like listen to the replays, please reach out and let me know. I would love to hear feedback on this so that we can tailor this for more of what everybody wants and needs if we decide, if I do move forward with doing one next year, right? So I would love that feedback at info@atlaastrology.com, or you can come to my website and drop me a message on there at atlaastrology.com. And until next time, love and light. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Alchemy, Astrology, and Astro Health. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it. You can find all relevant links to today's show in the show notes below. If you loved the show today, please subscribe, follow, and leave me a review. I love to hear your thoughts, and it helps me know what is a hit and to make more of that content, especially for you. If you want to learn more about me and how I can help you, head over to atlaastrology.com. There you can sign up for a medical astrology package, download my free sun sign in your health ebook, read the blog, and so much more. If you want to connect more outside the podcast, follow my Instagram channel at @atlaastrology or join my Astro Connection community, the link to which you can find in the show notes. Until next time, love and light.